Are current premium series better than they ever were? Welcome to Bird's Eye View Media.
Let us seduce you with our sultry tones.
So, classically loved TV shows. Now, keep in mind, we're only talking about premium cable. We're not talking about those other cable networks. So this is going to exclude Fox shows. It's going to exclude Breaking Bad and The Walking Dead.
Fresh Prince does not count as a premium show. Great in its own right, but not premium.
So, classically loved shows mainly are coming from HBO. So, classically loved TV shows, The Wire, everybody loves The Wire. Everybody loves The Sopranos.
Omar coming!
Because they were one of the first shows to really do a lot of these edgy things. But now we have shows like Game of Thrones, which is obviously about as edgy as you can get. True Detective, incredible first season especially. And then Stranger Things, apparently incredible. I've watched it and I like it.
I don't quite know how I feel about it, but I keep watching.
It's not up to the other two, but that's another video. So are Game of Thrones and True Detective, are these shows better than The Sopranos and The Wire?
When it comes to a tie, you got to go to the pioneer. I mean, The Sopranos and The Wire started it all. I mean, what's Game of Thrones? Titties and people dying. What was Sopranos?
Well,
titties and people dying.
I think that's very oversimplified. I think Game of Thrones is much more Lord of the Rings, where they have built their universe. The Sopranos did not build a universe. The Sopranos put people in an already existing universe, and they did some cool things. They did a lot of brutal stuff. They had some rapes. They had some kills. But it definitely set some trends, but does it really beat Game of Thrones? Does it really beat True Detective, especially? The characters in True Detective are undeniably deeper than The Sopranos and The Wire.
I think I would still go to The Sopranos because, yeah, I mean, obviously True Detective and Game of Thrones have carried the torch forward. They've evolved.
Absolutely.
But what The Sopranos did in a completely new landscape. I mean, obviously, certain aspects of it would be changed if they were to do that today.
Yes.
Because now they understand the implications of what they did. But, I mean, come on. I mean, you were enthralled.
I'm going to say, though, The Sopranos has some faults that I don't see in Game of Thrones.
The ending!
Yes, the ending was one. Another one that I really hated throughout all of The Sopranos, using the therapist to have the character simply state how he feels is such a shitty, half-assed way to develop characters. I hate it. It's there almost the entire show, and I just cannot get past the half-assed writing of having Tony Soprano sit with this Freudian lady and just tell her everything he thinks. It's so lame. Have him say that organically in a situation, not with a pre-made template where he can just spout out how he's feeling.
I kind of felt like it worked because I mean,
of course it worked. It was pre-made to work.
But I mean, it fits society in the sense that, you know, a lot of people struggle with these things on a day-to-day basis.
They struggle with killing their best friend.
They struggle. They struggle with their lives' consequences and problems that they deal with, and for whatever reason, a lot of people find it liberating to sit down with an unknown.
No, and I get it. And I'd be fine with that if it was much more sparsely used, or if it was used only for a season. But it is relied upon in many situations. It is overused and it is formulaic.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of like, they use it to an extent to kind of set the tone of where he's at.
Right.
But I think it's also, you know, it's that slippery slope that shows that this is who he's been before the show starts, and we want to illustrate how he's breaking apart.
My counter to that is the way that True Detective builds the characters to an arguably better level is they are in a car. They're traveling to their next scene. They're traveling to interview a witness, and they're having organic conversations, and we learn about the characters through that. The Sopranos does that, but doesn't use it well. The Sopranos has a lot of scenes where Tony's with Chris and they're driving somewhere, but they're wasting it on bullshit.
But that's
dialogue.
exactly what they're illustrating, though. Is like that Tony's got his foot in one world while trying to hold his other foot in another world, and he's struggling with being the person he's supposed to be at home.
So do you not think that that could be shown through dialogue with people organically, though? Do you have to have a therapist to show an audience that?
I think it all played as multiple pieces to the puzzle.
Oh,
Because
I don't
that's
know,
what you
man.
see,
I
is
think
you see
that's
a
the
guy-
crutch that breaks the show. I really do. It kills me to watch those scenes. It's so cheap. I cannot get through it. So...
But that's
So-
you got to remember what your perspective
So-
is. You're in the midst
Yeah, but-
of completing a doctorate in psychology.
Okay, but what does that have to do with
So it
writing
gives
or
you a
that
jaded
character
view of
development?
that because you're seeing it as an unrealistic portrayal of what
No,
you have
I'm
an inside
able
knowledge
to
of.
separate it from the practice of psychology. I'm able to do that. I'm looking at it simply as how it's written to build a character. That's what I'm doing. I'm not criticizing the fact that she's Freudian and all that shit's bullshit. That's a separate video, okay? Not all of it.
We're not going to make that video.
So, but let's use The Wire then, because we're obviously not agreeing on that point. The Wire is a show that kind of changes its format each season. So to me, I actually really enjoyed the port season, season 2, when they're at the port and the drugs are coming in on shipments and there's that whole union side of everything. And I thought the characters were developed very well through their actions. And there was really long dialogue. But if you compare The Wire, a multi-character show, to Game of Thrones, the modern multi-character show, don't you think Game of Thrones pulls you in much more the way that it's made with its dialogue?
I don't know. I mean, we saw some great Michael B. Jordan in that shit.
Okay, but think about the actual characters who were developed. There were a couple really great characters. I loved Lester a lot. But Game of Thrones, I feel like I understand every character very well, and I learned that from organic dialogue. In The Wire, you have clips of characters, and it can take you seasons to really fully understand a character.
And I agree. And if you're going to look at it stand up, The Wire versus Game of Thrones, I mean, I'm obviously going to go Game of Thrones.
So
but at the same point, again, it just leads me back to my point where The Wire and The Sopranos were cutting into new territory.
They were, and they were doing things no show had ever done. Only film had ever done
Yeah.
a lot of these things. But I do want to really pose that question. Is Game of Thrones doing more for future shows than The Wire or The Sopranos did?
To tell you the truth, I might side with you if I had not seen season 7.
Oh, God.
No,
I don't think season 7 was
but
that deal breaking.
No, but my thing is they cut it in half. It cheapened it.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You're right. There wasn't that eventful chaos that happens in all the other seasons.
True.
Because the first half is usually dull, setting the plot, so that way when chaos hits the fan, you have an understanding.
So
they built it up and then never gave you that back end of it.
So we will plug that by saying we are also making a video about Season 7 Game of Thrones specifically. But what we would like to hear from you is, what do you think about the use of the therapist in Sopranos as exposition? And how do you think the modern premium shows like Game of Thrones and True Detective, what are they doing for the future? And are they doing more than the classics like The Wire and The Sopranos did?
I still think, yeah. I mean, obviously they're doing more, but I mean, it's you have a better understanding of where you can go with it.
I was asking the audience.
Well, you know what? You can go fuck yourself.
Do the outro.
You want an outro? Fuck you, Derek. Subscribe, share, and fuck you, Derek.
We are really going off.